This is Vinny. This is Vinny's roadmap to success. How about a sit? Can you give me a sit? Now, one of the things I talk to the guardians about is sitting is my indicator if a dog feels comfortable. You see his ears are back, he's not comfortable. See he's not sitting, he's walking away a little bit. So I didn't reinforce, but there's no punishment. A lot of people interpret that as disobedience. So like, God damn, sit down. No, sitting and laying down are, to me, an indication the dog feels comfortable. If I think somebody's gonna rob me, I'm not gonna sit next to them. I'm gonna be ready to run. So if I asked Vinny to sit, which I did multiple times, and he went 5 feet away and sat down, that's his way of saying, I don't feel comfortable sitting here. I feel I need a couple of feet away. I call this escapability. And so that's okay. But a lot of us misinterpret dogs' fears, yes, as being disobedient. This is celebrating. We'll talk about this in a minute. Okay, so yeah. And so I'm rewarding desired behaviors. We'll talk about celebrating right now. Celebrating is rewarding the dog when it voluntarily chooses to do things. I didn't ask him to come, but coming to me is a desirable action. So I'm rewarding him for that. When he comes to me again, I say yes, and I can either give him a pet or a treat. And I generally celebrate with pets instead of treats, otherwise our dog's gonna be pretty fat, because we should celebrate a lot. You're probably gonna see me celebrate a lot with him. Yes. Now that's a little play action. All right, yes, I know, we'll get to that next. All right, so we started off by going over marker words. By the time you guys see this, you guys should have already loaded this. So we loaded a marker word, and we also loaded a clicker. Yeah, you looked up for that one. So again, that's the sort of thing where we either click or say yes, and we give them a treat, and we walk around our house, and we do it all over the place. And you only have to do that about 6 or 8 times. I usually do about 12 treats, walk around the house, and do that maybe 6 more times. For the yes, and the same thing for the clicker. Make sure you don't drag your S's and don't say it too excitedly. After we're doing that for about 6 times for each one of those, you probably can say yes and he looks up at you, then you're done loading it. Then we're just gonna use it when the dog does the thing you want. Like this, Vinny, come here. Sit. Yes, treat. Remember there's 4 components to a cue. The cue, which we used to call a command word, sit. The action of Vinny sitting. Me saying the marker word of yes to let Vinny know he did the thing I wanted. Then I provided with him a reinforcement, which could be a pet or a tension. But when we're teaching a dog to do those things, remember we teach the first stage, the first step, the cue, last. We just use our marker word. So if I'm teaching a dog to sit, I'm just going to lure them into a sit. Well, of course, he doesn't want to do it. There we go. Yes. And I just lure them into sit until it's easy for them to sit. And when I can predict, because they're doing it 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row, then I just say sit, and then lure and say yes and give them a treat. Technically, once you say sit and the dog sits, you can give up the marker word, but there's nothing wrong with using the marker word. My dogs are 7 and 10. They haven't needed the marker word for a long time. I still use it all the time. Understanding what people want from you is a great way to engender confidence. And a lot of us, what I want to make sure the dog understands what we want, and we can understand and read the dog. All right, so the marker word is a great way of cutting through that. If the dog hears the word, they know they did the right action. Remember, after saying your marker word, don't say any other words for 5 seconds, and don't say good click or I guess you wouldn't say it for marker, but don't say yes. Oh, you're such a good dog, Vinny. Yes. Then you're a good dog, Vinny, if you want. But when you say yes, you are saying you are a good dog, Vinny. All right, so after that, we went over hand targeting. I will have that linked above if you want to do that a little bit more. Yes, but hand targeting is to reposition your dog without manhandling them or woman handling them. It's also a consent check. It also is a way of alternative recall. Sit. I only ask a dog to do something once. If they do what I want, I say the marker word reward. If they don't, I don't do anything else. He didn't do what I wanted to. He went over and laid down under the table near his guardian. Maybe he didn't feel comfortable. That's fine. I'm not going to get mad because all attention's rewarding. Instead, I just didn't do anything. He walked over and he laid down where he felt comfortable. He didn't get petted for that either. He could have. Nothing wrong with that. But remember, half of how dogs learn is not doing what you want and you not marking and not rewarding. Then they learn, well, that wasn't reinforcing, so I might not do that again. But if I sit, I get attention, I'm more likely to sit again. So basically, for hand targeting, practice that one until you can get him to come from like your kitchen all the way to your front by going boop, and he runs over and touches his nose to your hand. It's an alternative recall. We also went over how you can use the pause interrupter. Now, if there's one member of the house that has difficulty going, he's gonna go which doesn't work as well. If you have difficulty doing that, just imagine you're drinking a shake through a straw from In-N-Out that's overly frozen, and work on it. You'll get better at it. If not, you just say, beep, 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 beep. That's not what it's supposed to do. You heard something outside. But when we say, and what we might do is, beep, 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 beep. Well, that I think it was a little bit uncomfortable. Beep, 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 beep. So you would load it the same way. Just say, and try to say it 3 times in a high-pitched voice, quickly. And then you could also go beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. So it's the same thing. We're just saying the beep means a treat's about to appear. Then you can use that. Let's say Vinny hears somebody outside and he like perks up, he's looking, but he's only at level 2 arousal out of a scale of 10. I say beep, beep, beep. He looks at me, I go boop. He runs over and shoves his nose in my hand. I've redirected him away from wherever it was without making that the unwanted behavior, something he's going to do to get attention. Yes. Right there, I don't know if you see on the camera, but when I turned him, he kind of crouched down and he's ready to sprint away. I think he's in play mode, but the guardians here have also occasionally needed to grab him with the harness on. Yeah, he didn't like that. And so if we snatch a dog, we can kind of create a little bit of that animosity. And the guardians here are doing all the right stuff, but sometimes they had to take him to the vet. They do those sort of things. How about demand barking? Now, right now, he is showing some signs of having too much energy. He's barking, he's darting around the room. We can get frustrated when the dogs do this because we're focused on doing our books or whatever it is. When he gets like this, take him out for a sniff walk. If there's too much stuff going on outside, then maybe do some scent games inside. Do a little training. Work on the harness like we did. Those are great ways to drain energy. Right now, he's just saying, I'm bored, and you're right here, so I'm going to bark at you for attention. Now, barking becomes a self-rewarding behavior. So if he barks at me for attention, or you guys, what I recommend you do is tell him to sit 1 time. Good job, buddy. If he does, she could have celebrated that. She'll remember next time. But if he's barking at me, I say sit, and he sits, I say yes, and pet him under his chin. If he doesn't sit, I would lean back, and he barks at me a second time, I would get up, and I go in that door over there and close the door behind me. So what I'm telling him, that's a negative punishment. Now, I don't like to do that. I like to make that one of my last options. But so I'd probably just try to let him bark it out, but the guardians say that he'll bark for 45 minutes. That becomes rewarding. So if he barks once, sit. If he doesn't sit, get up and leave. Put a glass of water or bottles of water in there. Make sure that you have in every room. If you get in there, you want to be able, if he's whining, wait for him to stop whining or protesting before you come out. Otherwise, he thinks the whining is what brought you out. So you wait for him to stop, and then you come back in, sit down, and just don't ask for a sit again. Just go back to doing what you're doing. He comes up and barks at you again, sit. If he sits, yes, and pet. If he doesn't, then you go back there. Yes. And you're figuring this one out. And if he sits and you pet him for a second, then he barks again, he's probably saying, I need more exercise than this. So again, we take him for a walk or do something else. For that, if you're going to do that method, you might get like a plexiglass, cut it out so it fits exactly the edge of the bottom of your door, and get some 3M Velcro tape and attach it to your door. So when you go in there, if he's scratching at it, you want him to scratch your door and make you say, stop doing that, because that'll reward him. Remember, all attention is rewarding and validating. So the other side of the coin from celebrating, well, actually celebrating is when we were rewarding him. He didn't really like the pet, which is why I've been using treats for him, because he's still getting to know me. But basically, when he does things that we want, like he was coming to me, I was saying yes and giving him a treat. After a while, and he's doing that now because I've been here a while, it's over 4 hours, and he's tired and he wants these treats. Sit. Yes. Now that was on the edge, but after 2 or 3 seconds, if they don't do it, then I just go back to what I'm doing. Playing hard to get works great for training, works great for dating as well. I mixed that one up, but you know what I'm saying. So the idea is, don't practice shake anymore with him because it promotes jumping and pawing at him. So when he demands attention so if he does things that I like, sits, comes, downs, eye contact, I say yes and reward him. If my partner sees that I missed it and says celebrate, I would say yes and pet him under his chin. He probably would be okay with that. Yeah, there we go. But I want to be mindful. So if he does come to me, I can say yes and give him a treat, just like it was at the beginning part of the video. Now, demand barking that he was doing is demanding attention. It's like a little kid saying, Mommy, go make some chicken nuggets. Mom would say, would you like to ask for those chicken nuggets again? If the child says, can I please have chicken nuggets? Mom makes them. If the child says, go make me chicken nuggets. Mom says, doesn't sound like somebody wants chicken nuggets. And she goes back to what she was doing. So what we're going to do is when he demands attention, we're going to tell him to sit. one time, or lay down if he knows that. If he doesn't do it, then we'll just go back to what we're doing. He barks a second time, we get up and leave. Now, there we go. That was a great job. Now, let's say that my partner comes in and sees that he's jumped up on me and I'm petting him. They might say manners. What they might be saying is, David, I think you forgot that we shouldn't be inviting him up, or he jumped up on you, you're rewarding him for that. They might have thought that I forgot that I shouldn't reward undesirable behaviors. Anything your dog does right before you pet them is what you're specifically rewarding. So if that's the case, he's up on top of me, I would stop petting and say sit. He sits, I say yes, pet him on the chin. I tell my partner, actually I asked him to sit and I asked him to jump up, but I do forget to pet him intentionally, so thank you for reminding me of that. Don't argue about it, just gives you an opportunity to practice it again. Remember, for dogs, the more that we reward them for desired behaviors, they're more likely to offer those. And eventually what will happen is he'll come start sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. When he does, make sure you pet him. Otherwise, he'll go back to the other things. So you say celebrate to each other if they forget the opportunity to reward when he voluntarily offers behaviors. Say manners if you think somebody's petting him at a time where he's offered a behavior that we don't really like, or we're not trying to reinforce. Let me see, what else did we go over? We also went over, he's going to be exhausted after the session. We went over consent and cutoff signals. So I should have the consent video linked above. Remember, cutoff signals for dogs are ducking the head, turning away, doing all those together, refusing to look at you, refusing to come to you. Sometimes they'll roll over and show you their belly of being submissive. So when your dog offers that, if I'm trying to trim my dog's nails and it pulls his paw away, that's a cutoff signal. If I'm trying to put the harness on, the dog backs away, that's a cutoff signal. So when you see those cutoff signals, stop. It's something you have to do with your dog. Ask yourself, how can we recreate that situation and make it a positive? The harness, he didn't like the harness. So I was trying to do a conditional emotional response, or what we call a CER. I had a handful of treats here and his harness here. I held out the harness, he ran away. So what I did is I put the harness on the ground, I sprinkled treats all around it. And it wasn't enough, so I had to sprinkle higher value treats. Still wasn't enough. I had the highest value treats, the Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver that I get on Amazon. Just remember, he used those, cut them into tiny little pieces. When I sprinkled those over, then he came over and he started sniffing it. But now he's approaching it on his own. I made it easier, though. Holding it was too much, because that's what people do. They hold it and they put it on you, and that's scary for me as a dog, for him in particular. So I just put it down until he was kind of lingering. At first he was kind of had a lean, then he was just kind of lingering. Then we picked it up and then we were doing the CER. We held it out, he looks at it, yes, it goes away, we give him a treat. Remember, when you're doing this, only one hand is out in front, the deal or the treat. And when he looks at it, yes, it goes away, then I get the treat. And I'm doing it first off to the side here, then a little bit towards him. I usually keep on holding it about here, then eventually came and touched his nose to it. Then we held it up, so the aperture that he puts his head through, and I'm holding it up as if I'm gonna put it over his head. I'm holding it like this, and I put my hand through the aperture with the treat. He approached the harness, I gave him the treat. The harness does not move, my hand's going through it. First my hand goes through this far, eventually my hand's only going through this far. Eventually I'm holding it here and he's putting his head through it. Remember, when you get to the end, do not move it. Wait for him to push his head all the way through it before you actually start attaching it. And then once you get to that point, I would just practice going around. It looks like a beach whale. I would go around the house, put it on one room, yes, give him a treat, take it off, go to another room, put it on him, make it into something fun. For whatever reason he didn't like it, that's okay. We don't really care about the why unless it's something we can fix. In this case, we just want to fix and make sure it's a positive emotional response, which it didn't take very long. So I'd have you guys practice that maybe 1 minute a day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. I would imagine by the end of the week, you should be able to put the harness on him, no problem. Actually, better yet, hold it up and he puts it on himself. And then you can just say, dress up, and he runs over, sits his head through, you attach it, say yes, and give him a treat. And now he does it for you. We've taken something negative and fearful, made it into a positive. All right, let me see, what else did we go over? We went over creative forms of exercise. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up for dog consent. For dog consent, what we usually do is we tell people when they want to meet their dog, hold your hand out. Now, don't ever tell that if you think he's going to bite the person. If someone wants to meet him, just say, yeah, we just ask people to hold their hand out at his nose, see if he wants to meet you. How does he tell you that? Well, he'll touch his nose to your hand if he wants to meet you. What if he doesn't touch your nose to your hand? Then we'll maybe meet you some other time. And then if he doesn't, if he turns his head away, he's not saying, I don't know that you're there. He's saying, I don't want to meet that person. Then you walk him away. If somebody tries to pet him and he's doing that, you step in between them. If they're really obtuse, you could tell them, hey, he's got a ringworm, it's contagious, nobody's supposed to pet him. Now again, you shouldn't take your dog out if it has ringworm. It's highly contagious, that's irresponsible. But some people are dupes who do, and they will pet your dog anyways, but if you say that, a lot of times they'll back away. But don't say it too much to the neighborhood, like, that's a dirty dog. But your job is to be your dog's advocate and make sure that you handle the situation. Dogs that are reactive also are often reactive because the humans are not aware of the dog's body language or cutoff signals, and they keep on taking the dogs into difficult or stressful situations. If you recognize his body language, he gets stiff, he closes his mouth, his ears go back, or whatever it is, tail tucked, and then you move him away. He doesn't have to do that. Remember, when he's lunging, he's trying to make things move away. That's why we never ever disagree with the dog for growling. We just simply move them away. Now, if you know that you're walking down the street, you see a dog walking down the street, you know he doesn't like, walk on the other side of the street. Turn around, do a U-turn. Walk around a car. The find it game that we're doing throwing treats, I do that a lot. If a dog's coming down the street, I walk into somebody's yard and I do find it, and I get the dog turned away. And he's looking for treats on the grass, and I let the other dog pass by. I default. I take the secondary position, let them go. So he doesn't have to bark at anything because David doesn't ever put me in situations where I need to. Body language for dogs, look at the head. What are the ears doing? Usually forward or far back are not good things. More off to the side, and neutral is what we're looking for. Are his eyes big, unblinking, and dilated, or are they squinty and soft? Is he breathing fast or holding his breath or breathing normally? Is he leaning forward, leaning away? Is his body stiff or relaxed, wiggly and jiggly? Is his tail up and stiff or up and twitchy? That's probably a little bit more alerting. Is it down between his legs? Then that's probably, I'm uncomfortable. I'm definitely not going to let somebody meet him there. So remember, what I'd like you to do is watch these things when he's normal, when he's at home and there's no stimulus around, and see how his ears look and his head, his eyes, and all that fun stuff. Then when you guys come home and one of you is home and your partner comes home, watch him, look for those things and see the difference between how he wags his tail, what his ears do, how his eyes look. And now you know two positives. And then when you have the delivery people, like what you happened before, look at those same characteristics. What does his tail do when he's uncomfortable or he's territorial? Then when you're on a walk, if you see the first indication of that and you increase the distance, he doesn't have to. And that is one of the key secrets to stopping dogs from being reactive, is not putting them in a situation that it's overwhelming for them. And when a dog reacts, that's what it's saying. I don't know how to deal with the situation, so I'm just trying to make everything go away. The guardians here were great. They asked me, can we take him to like a brewery? Some dogs can go to the brewery, that's fine. I don't think he really likes being on a walk. Being in an indoor building around drunk people, probably not a good idea. So your job is to know what your partner is suitable for and not ask for more than they can give. Same thing for our dogs. So, and unfortunately, him being a pit, he's the beautiful pit, but he's a pit mix. A lot of people are prejudiced against it. So just go there. People are going to be looking at you sideways. He does anything, they're like, he's an aggressive dog. And then it makes you feel uncomfortable about it. Go to the brewery and enjoy it yourself. He's just going to sit here and sleep. Bring him like some beer, not beer. Bring him some little toy or something like that, and he'd be happy. But don't take a dog in a situation that's not prepared for, it's not going to like. Just because we like it doesn't mean our partner does. As long as we put up with the stuff for our partner, but don't do that for your dog. Let me see. We also talked about, creative forms of exercise. Sniffing on walks burns twice as much energy. I would do that find it game every block. Every time I'm walking, I pick a grassy area when there's nobody around, find it, and when he gets it, yes, comes back to me, and I'd say come, he comes, yes, and I throw another one. There's another version of it you can do is if, let's say that I'm the dog and the camera is the person. So you throw one treat and I sniff and find it. When I look up at you, you say yes, and you throw a treat over here. I find that one, I look at you, say yes, and I throw it over here. You're marking me looking at you, but I don't have to come to you. Then you throw a treat over here or here, and then I'm going to find it with my nose. This is it's a great orientation game, but this is also something you do if a dog's walking down the street, somebody's walking by, you know he's going to bark. Move the distance away and then play this game on the grass. Let the thing pass by while he has a mild distraction. Don't let things sneak up on him. That'll really spook him, and we don't want that. Same thing with snatching. All right, so for walks, let him sniff as much as possible, but I would practice two things on every block. Find a place where you practice to find it for maybe 5 or 10 treats, or the game that I just explained. Also practice a U-turn. So when we're walking to the camera, let's say the dog's here. I always turn with the dog on my outside. So if I'm going to do a U-turn and the dog's on my right, I'm going to turn my left. Hold the treat to your dog's lips and say turn. Lure him around a turn, take one step back that direction, and say yes, and put the treat in his mouth. Walk about 6 to 10 paces that way and repeat it. Now you're going back this direction. So you're doing 2 half U-turns on every block. So if you do see something and he doesn't like and you say turn, he just turns looking for the treat. He doesn't even care about whatever it is. A lot of times you turn around, they're like, oh, I'm going to kick that thing's butt. So just getting him used to a U-turn is a great preparatory exercise for you if you have a reactive dog, so you have a plan B to get your dog out of there if they get reactive. And if your dog gets reactive, just if you have to pull them away, pull them away. But your job is really to watch your dog and be mindful of your environment to not to put them in a situation where they need to react in the first place. Playing tug of war is a great way to burn energy, but when he gets a level 5 energy, drop it. Wait for him to settle down before you pick it up and play again. Playing fetch, same thing. So I say fetch as I throw the ball. When he goes and gets it, I have a treat quietly, don't crinkle the bag. When he comes over to me, I hold the treat to his mouth. I don't say anything. When he drops it, I say yes, put the treat in his mouth. Then I pick it up, ask for and after the dog's done this a while, then I ask for a sit. Sits, as soon as he sits, I say yes and say fetch and I throw the ball. So now he's got to sit before I'm going to throw the ball. A little bit of impulse control. And after a while, he brings it back, sit, and I wait a half second before I throw the ball. Then a full second, then 2 seconds, 4 seconds. Eventually, he's bringing it back, sitting, dropping and sitting, waiting for 5 seconds while we're throwing the ball, and eventually calms himself down a little bit. We're helping him practice impulse control through a game. Dogs have to practice everything we want them to do. Most people don't help their dog practice impulse control, then wonder why they can't bark at the window. For the window, remember to cover the bottom part with white paper. You don't have to do the whole thing, but just so he can't see those shapes. This isn't really in my wheelhouse, but if you do want them to not go on the furniture, they do make things called X mats. They're plastic mats. You open them up, they have spikes on them. They're plastic. They don't feel good to lay on. Yes. And so you put them on your deals. He won't want to jump up there. Now, he can perch himself up there like a parrot, so you have to kind of figure out if you want to do that or not. But I'm not really a big fan of punishment. That is kind of a punishment, but the dog's kind of activating it themselves, so technically it's okay, but it's not really in my wheelhouse. Let me see, what else? Yes. Let me see. Training is a great way to drain energy. Feeding out of a snuffle mat or treat dispensing toys and puzzles. Let me see. Training, like I mentioned, is a great way, and set games. We did Cookie in the Corner. I should have that linked above. Google 3 or 4 set games, so you have some set games that you can practice. Yeah. Let me see, what else? What else was I going to go over? Feeding out of a snuffle mat. There's something else that's going to come to me. It'll come back to me. The book was Psycho-Cybernetics by Maltz, if you want to read that book. Yes. And he said, I don't want you to pet me. And because I didn't pet him, he feels comfortable enough to lay down there. His ears are back a little bit. But yeah, we're buddies. But again, I have to listen to him and respect what he's saying. And if I do that, then he feels more comfortable. Try to incorporate some Premax. Premax principle means the less desirable behavior earns me a more desirable behavior. Go to the back door and say sit. If he sits, yes, and open the door. If he doesn't sit, walk away, sit down, wait 1 minute, provided he doesn't gonna have an accident. After 1 minute, go back to the door, tell him to sit again. If he doesn't sit, then it's time I walk within 2 seconds. I walk away, sit down for 2 minutes. Next time I sit down for 4 minutes, 8 minutes. I keep double length of time until when I say sit, the dog sits. Then I open the door. After a while, he'll sit at the door and say, can I go outside? Sit before I prepare your food. Sit before I pet you. I mean, there's a lot of, it doesn't always have to be a sit, but incorporating some things where he has to do something to get attention from you can build a little bit of respect for you as an authority figure and help him identify a little bit more as a follower. And then as he identifies more as a follower, then he's going to be a little bit less twitchy about things, recognizing you're going to take care of it. The thing I forgot that has come back to me now, was not a green smurf, was to practice the treat trail from your door. So do it from right underneath your fence, down your sidewalk and by the palm tree, and just he goes down there a couple times, there's nobody there. Then if you have a friend or somebody that he does know, or maybe one of you guys, you go to work and you sit there and then, all right, let's bring him out. I've left the treat trail. You bring him out the treat trail and it's like, who's that person in the black hoodie? I can't see. Oh, it's my guardian. Oh, you hang out here? This is where you go when I leave? Oh, okay. I was worried. And so now we've helped him practice that. Now, if you're a guest that's doing that, maybe send them to whatever the mark number is on this video. And basically what I did is I was sitting, so when he approached me, kind of went, the house is here and he went over here, but he was approaching me from behind. Now, the handler, you have to make sure you don't let him approach if you think he might bite the person, because the person needs to be still. I'm sitting here on the curb facing the street, the house is behind me. And basically, he came up and got out of the treat trail. Now he's pretty comfortable with it. As a guest, what I do is I have a treat in my hand. I hold it out like this flat. I don't make any eye contact. I just hold it. When he licks it up, leave your hand there. But come back and lick it a second time. And then you can do that again. And if you think he's getting a little stiff, if you're the handler, you could throw a treat away. And the guest, every 2 or 3 treats, I would show him I have a treat and throw it there. So he has to take a step or 2 away. Gives him a chance to be, that was hard to meet that person. Then he comes back and gets another treat. You don't want to always lure them to come towards you, because sometimes when the treats go, the dog's like, now I feel trapped. I didn't want to be here and I'm going to bite you. So by leaving the treat trail, he's choosing to come to us, and we're just offering treat. We're not trying to pet him. And when he starts to sniff you, just hold still. Do not pet him. Just hold still, let him sniff you as much as he wants. And then if you want to, when you're ready and when he gets done sniffing, just give him another treat. Giving free treats in this sort of situation is totally fine. And then maybe I ask him to sit as a guest. You can look a little bit, but just don't stare him in the eye. Sit, hold the treat up. If he sits, say yes, put it in his mouth. If he sits, that's a good indication he's feeling comfortable. Then I might basically, if I want to stand up, I'm going to show him that I have a treat, and I'm going to throw it a little bit to the side, or you guys call him away. Then the person stands up. Standing up can catch him off guard and make him spooked. So we'd rather have a couple feet distance. The human stands up and stays there, and I'm not standing because you won't see me. But then I would hold a treat here in a standing position. He comes back, hold it low under his nose. He comes up, gets a treat, give him a couple treats. Then we walked a couple of houses up. By the time we walked a couple of houses, and then I'm giving a couple treats, asking for him sits. It's like, oh man, you have treats? The blue shirt guy came. He had the same treats, man. I really liked meeting that guy. We're going for a walk. I'm really going for a walk. And we go back in. We come inside. Remember, give a treat right outside the door, right inside the door. The person should give. And then just because the person was cool, he was cool with the person outside, doesn't mean he's going to guarantee be inside. Some people might just not rub him the right way. Now, the best thing you do as a guest is ignore him. The more interest you show probably is going to make him like you less. You want to be passive and let him approach you. When he comes to sniff you, don't pet him. And then eventually, I would like to have the guardians playing the boop game, and you're watching them do that. You can watch the video above. And then every once in a while, when they point at you, you say boop, and you hold it out. We're trying to test, does he feel comfortable enough to come and touch and nose my hand? If he does, keep your hand there, put the treat, say yes, put the treat there, then somebody else calls it. And also make sure your guest doesn't move stuff around. Moving things around can be difficult for dogs, especially new people. So I would pull out a chair and have them sitting there. Again, you have this nice cozy area here, but if a guest is sitting here with your table, this makes everything really compounded. And so it might take 2 or 3 times before he meets a guest he feels comfortable and relaxed with. That's good. Meet outside, create a situation where the dog can approach the guest versus the guest coming in and invading the dog's space. Let me see. I think that's about it. Is there anything else you guys want me to cover?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So now what I would recommend you guys do, watch the video on the resource guarding we talked about because it's all encapsulated in that video. Remember, when it happens, that gives you an opportunity to make it better. So don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as a positive opportunity. And keep it 1 minute, just short. And again, please stuff up. So I guess I'm going over stuff in the video. I'm not going to do that. But practice that stuff when you need to. Watch that video until you really have all the ins and outs. But this video, I usually invite my clients to watch it Sunday. Watch it once a week, maybe on a Sunday, every week until we can watch it. You're like, nothing new there. I'm doing everything there. If you're still having problems at that point, let me know. We can come back and we can work on some more advanced stuff. But for about 90% of my clients who don't have fear and aggression-based problems, this one session seems to take care of most of the problems because we're addressing what you did to cause the problem or contribute to it, as well as how to fix it. All right, I would invite him over here, but he's asleep. So right over there is the Vinny, and this is Vinny's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.